My name is Holly Hart. I'm one of the co-chairs. I am the current co-chair, the Coordinated Campaign Committee. We're working on getting another. And I've mentioned before what our committee does. We track candidates, bring candidates around the country. On office holders, we try to offer support, recruiting. We have a monthly series of webinars. And we try to do events like this. Is the first time we've held this kind of event, so we didn't really know how it would turn out. But normally we would do an in-person meet and greet, try to do that, and then press conferences, which we didn't do this time because trying to accommodate 60 plus some people was going to be tough. So I'll just ask each one of you for a very quick introduction. I know there's a former candidate, one candidate here, a former candidate, and then a couple observers with questions, and maybe we'll just take brief introductions, and then you can go ahead and ask the candidates Q&A. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Christopher. I live in Portland, Oregon metropolitan area, Lake Oswego, and I've been a Green since about 2016 with the Joel campaign. I got heavily involved locally in 2016 and 2017 and was participating in the local Portland Metro Greens in terms of running the board and trying to get the chapter off the ground and other things. Fortunately, Portland is not one of those areas that's great for a lot of things political, because everyone assumes that it's all left, but it's not, and it's the whitest city in America and a whole lot of other things. So it's a nightmare. But anyway, I've been out for a while, but now I'm trying to get back in and more involved.
Great, thank you, thank you. Let's see, I see, and we just had Rachel Broughton join us. I'll go first to, let's see, Sarah Dillon.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Dillon. I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana, National Committee delegate for the Indiana Green Party. I've been a Green since 2005. In this capacity, I am working as one of the co-communications directors for the David Wetter for Indiana Secretary of State campaign.
Thank you. And again, very quickly, because we're going to have about maybe 19 minutes, but we have a couple candidates here. I want to also mention Rachel Broughton. You just want to give your name and state and what you do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Broughton. I live in Crystal, Minnesota. I'm not a candidate. I'm in a commission, the Environmental Quality Commission here. And I'm just kind of here to listen in and to see what's going on.
I'm going to introduce our two candidates and then the former candidate, and we can, people have questions, they can put them to them. Jeff Sparling, you are running in Michigan, correct?
Correct. Michigan's brand new 14th district for the state house, combining a suburban district with an urban district after the redistricting. And this is our first cycle of after the redistricting, but our first experiment in theoretically non-partisan redistricting, which I would take umbrage and argument with. Nonetheless, I think it was still very partisan.
Thank you. And then from, I believe, Connecticut, running for governor, Michelle Bicking.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm running for governor here in Connecticut. Very grateful and invigorated by the whole process, and so excited to be on this call with everyone.
Great, well, thank you. Glad you could join us. And then Robert Cushlan, who was a former candidate and I believe office holder. Robert, just quick introduction and you can take it away. Oh, Jim Cushlan. Sorry, I don't know. I don't use people's first names. Jim Cushlan.
No, that's all right. Yes, I'm Jim Cushlan. I was a candidate last year in 2021 for Toledo City Council. Will likely be a candidate for something again in the future, and very enthralled by what we all just heard over, and we'll be attending the ballot access thing, as I consider that candidates obviously needed for those things. Consider that should be priority one, and so I'm just checking in with everybody on this stuff today.
Right. So one thing I will mention, I think for the top ticket races, it's an issue, but for many of the lower ticket races, it's not. I'd be curious to know, Michelle, I think Connecticut has ballot line, and so that was probably not as onerous, but I'd like to start quickly with a quick round, and then I think if anybody else has questions, we can do this quickly, but asking the candidates, Michelle and Jeff, briefly, what prompted you to run? What's your main issue? And I would be interested for Michelle in knowing how difficult it was to get on the ballot in Connecticut, since that has been that. But let's start with the first one. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. And I know time is precious. We actually don't have ballot access here in Connecticut. So it's been an uphill climb in the dark and the rain for the last several months to try to get that. What prompted me? One of our pillars of the community showing up in my driveway with a clipboard saying that she believes in me. I've been involved with the party for several years, former co-chair from 2008 to 2010. Very content to work behind the scenes to support other candidates. So this was the first time that the offer was made for candidacy for governor. So that's basically how I got involved. It's been very, very difficult. Connecticut likes to identify as a very progressive, from the Democrats' perspective, state. And they consider anyone who is third party as interlopers on their little party. So, so it's been very interesting to try to raise confidence in people locally that it's possible to vote outside the duopoly and consider something different and more vested in their personal interests. So.
Thank you. Well, good luck. And so, but you are on the ballot though. You did make that, or are you still working for that? Or you're still working for that?
Still working. Got until August 10th.
And I think you probably got a write-in option if you don't make it. I would just encourage people to do that. In fact, the Greens were able to call recounts in 2005. It's a little known historical fact that turned out to be very important. But because we filed write-in papers in Ohio, we were able to do this. So definitely, especially if you file paperwork, because then that gives you a little bit. Anyway, so Jeff Sparling, I was just going to ask too, if you would just briefly introduce to the group. We have some new faces here. What you hope to accomplish in your race here?
Well, in reality, what I hope to accomplish is educating some of the electorate, and by going around and talking to folk and trying to get people aware that they have alternatives. No, the Democrats in this area are very prominent. As a former Democrat myself, I guess I was pleased with that during the time that I was a part of their organization, but I don't have enough money to be a Democrat and run for anything in here. So that's one thing. My process of coming into this really leapfrogged off of Sherry Wells running for State House 2 years ago in our State House elections. She would be in a neighboring district, but I worked on her campaign and worked on her web project and getting her website up and making a lot of phone calls and such, and doing it all through COVID was quite a challenge. So that got me a little bit interested in the process and knowing what I know and all the campaigns and such that I worked on for what is now the opposition. I thought that, well, it's time to let people know they have an alternative. I'm a teacher, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and teach, and pretty much take it from there and see what happens.
Great, thank you. And we probably have time for maybe one, maybe two questions. I'd be interested. Hari Aksha is here. Hari Aksha Gregor, he works with Inagata de Vida, which is a podcast, and loves to have green candidates on. So if you are interested, you can put his email in the message bar there, and you can contact him, or he will contact you, because he's interested in that and my service. Gil Ober is coming. So hi, Gil. Gil, if you can do like a 10-second introduction. We have about maybe 12 minutes to this. It was a very short cafe, and these have been real popular. So, but I wanted to ask maybe one or two quick questions to the two candidates here. Gil, just go ahead and introduce yourself really fast.
Hi, I'm Gil Obler. I was a candidate for Congress in New York. I didn't get the ballot signatures required. Part of the reason was that, yeah, it was actually a good reason. We ended up back in court to to overturn really gerrymandered districting. But as a consequence, we all had to repetition.
Well, that's fine. I'd like to, actually, we lost one of our candidates. I think Michelle Bickey may have had a problem with bandwidth, unfortunately, because she hasn't been here much. But maybe if we had the time for a couple questions, then we have Jeff Sparling, who is running for office in Michigan, and Jim Cushlan, the former Michigan office holder or candidate, and Gil Ober, also formerly candidate. And Sarah is managing a writing candidacy. So I guess if anybody happens to have a question that you'd like to pose to any of these individuals, now is your chance. I always have questions, but I'd like to give others a chance to come up with something. Go ahead and butt in.
I had a couple of policy questions, but specifically since the last stay has been caucuses for the Elder Caucus and for the Disability Caucus, I figured I should bring up some topics from that.
Sure.
One question that I had that comes out of the Disability Caucus is regarding the expansion of the ADA, since that only passed in 1990. And especially in this current situation where we have basically the reaffirmation or the Lochner era of the court, particularly due to some members on the court specifically. But my question is both in terms of what kind of policy decisions you would be, not only to try to reinforce and expand ADA, but also in terms of policy and legal enforcement. How would you look at trying to oppose the sort of situation that may come about because of the Roe decision, as well as the decision regarding the EPA?
Good question. Jeff, do you want to take that on? That's something that usually addressed maybe at a higher level, but cities and municipalities can have a role to play. I'm interested in what you have to say.
It is interesting. At least Michigan is one of those states that is fighting to make sure that everyone has access to health care and to make their own decisions for their own body, which obviously I fully embrace. It is unfortunate that this had to happen. We thought that was resolved law, but apparently, when you stack the court, you can change things. Unfortunately, Mr. Trump has taught us what apathy can create. And I think that is something that we need to continue to nurture and to use in order to get people out to vote. It's ultimately up to the people to make sure that their voices are heard, and they have to understand that their vote counts. And that, for me, that was one reason why I came over to the Green Party. This is some place where I can speak my piece and say something, and it'll be heard, and I won't be taken for granted necessarily, I don't think. I'm sure if we get millions and millions of people involved, maybe I could get lost in the wash. But right now, I think it's a very good place for a lot of people to get these issues out and to get them talked about. And, when it comes down to enforcement, that's something that's going to have to be a concerted effort on all levels, both local, all the way up to, federal levels. And even in this day and age, my wife went to the doctor's office and asked the doctors, when are you going to get one of those buttons for your doors that we can push it and get open? She goes in on a walker. I have to make sure that I'm there to help hold the door open for when she can't go in. And this is her doctor's office. If anybody should be complying with ADA access, it should be the doctor's office. But yeah, we're not there yet. And it's going to take a while. You know, there's always the economic issues that go along with everything. And we just have to, you know, allocate and make decisions according to what people need, not what corporations need.
Thank you. And thanks a lot. Let's see. Hariaksha said, please email me if you care to zoom in for a pre-recorded internet radio program. Hariaksha.knauer@gmail.com. So that's that. We have just a couple more. I hate to say this, it's a couple more minutes. Gil, I was going to say, whoever has any comments might as well. Gil, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to address the medical thing too. You know, one of the things that I even like I said, didn't get on the ballot, but I didn't find anyone who disagreed with me on this issue. You know, I ended up on essentially privatized Medicaid through the ADA in New York, you know, because I spent a couple of years helping my mom as she died of cancer. And you know, while I was on this privatized version of Medicaid, meaning you had to go through a private insurance company to actually arrange the Medicaid. You know, essentially the dental plan was so bad that I ended up having to pay for 2 root canals because they would only cover the front teeth and not the molars that you actually chew with, which has nothing to do with health. It's crazy. And everybody agreed that that's horrible, even if their politics weren't for single payer or anything like that. So I think, you know, I think this is a good issue to raise with people.
Any final, like, really short question or comments about this? I'm glad you brought this up again. Brought this up too, because I don't think we talk about disability issues, and I think it is Disability Rights Month or Disability Awareness Month, if I'm correct. Any other quick comments before I'm going to have to go off in a couple minutes? And sorry, I'm glad that people are interested, but it's frustrating to have to shut it down. But there will be, by the way, a cafe tonight, 10 o'clock. And then tomorrow, oh, wait a minute, is there one later today? No, it's 10 o'clock to midnight tonight, Eastern time. And then 8 to 10 a.m. tomorrow. So both East Coast and West Coast will be accommodated, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then 10 to midnight tonight, Eastern time. Rachel asks, is abortion rights a part of the Green Party's constitution? I can actually answer that if you don't know, because I'm on the platform committee. Yes, it is. It's access to safe legal abortion. I will mention that early on, there a number of people expressed they didn't want to outlaw it, but several women said, I don't, you know, they have different ideas about, you know, life and different ideas about that. So in some places you'll say that we want to decrease the need for abortion. So even though that it's not outlawed, you know, we have the right to safe legal abortion, complete bodily autonomy, but also the need to have education, self-esteem for girls is another thing. And then of course, contraceptives. So along with that, we push that so we can accommodate people who may, for some reasons, without being rabidly anti-abortion, but may have, you know, philosophical reasons. But I would say there's no question that abortion rights is part of our Green Party's platform, and it's never been questioned. Nobody has ever made any attempts to. David Raquello is coming in. I'm going to have to say hello and goodbye. But so hopefully that answered your question, Rachel. Good.
And I know that here in Indiana, David Wetterer and we have another candidate. His name is Jacob Bailey, running for U.S. House in District 9. Both of them are going to be attending the State House here in Indiana next week. There's going to be a special session in the Indiana General Assembly. They're going to be fighting against the what is called Senate Bill 1 during the special session in the Indiana General Assembly for next week.
Thank you. I'm going to say, unfortunately, hello, David Raquello, and I'm very sorry that you just joined because this is a short one. Now I have to go because I'm unfortunately got called to fill in for a workshop. So just always tell people your name and what you're running for or where you're from if you're just here as an observer. And then we're probably going to say goodbye, but we will be back tonight from 10 to midnight and then tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So David, just a quick hello and then we're going to say goodbye.
Oh, thank you. I'm just here to observe and see what this cafe is all about. So I'll come back at.
Okay, good. Glad to have you. And thanks everybody for showing up and for some good questions, and hope to see you in the workshops and tonight or tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah. Sure.